Good afternoon, everybody. First and foremost, welcome to our monthly broadcast. This installment is of the Frontiers International Plainfield Area Club's Westry Horn Lecture Series. And today we are going to be highlighting some of the advancements and initiatives of what is known to many as the oldest Black service club to continue to exist today. And that is, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, Frontiers International Organization. We gather today, and as always, because Frontiers International stands for advancement through service. And with that mindset and in that vein, we have a number of initiatives where we empower young people and we provide opportunities for community education as it relates to the many contributions and accomplishments of Black Americans in our country. Today, we have a very special guest who will be joining us, who will be providing some highlights and some insights from his book that is related to this very organization. I hope that you will join us in our efforts and that you would remain with us for this special presentation. One thing about Frontiers International Plainfield Area Club is that we recognize that to truly promote advancement through service, we do so in three key areas, and that is through leadership, through fellowship, and through service. And so if you would like to partner with us in our efforts, in our mentorship programs, or to donate to our scholarship program, I do want to encourage you to do so. Frontiers International Plainfield Area Club is a 501c3 organization. And to donate to either one of our initiatives, you can do so using Zelle. And the phone number for that is area code 732-470-4207, or by PayPal using email address jess.marshall@verizon.net. Jess, JESS.Marshall@verizon.net. We will continue to stream that information across the broadcast at the bottom of your screen to give you an opportunity to partner with us to truly empower those who have long been the most oppressed and underserved community and members of our society. In that vein, as we prepare to begin our program for today, I invite you to join me in a brief word of prayer. Gracious God, our Father, we come to you now thanking and praising you, one, for who you are, and two, for who you are calling and making us to be. We recognize that it is in you that we live, move, and have our being. And to be apart from you is to be incapable of accomplishing anything meaningful. But with you, O God, you have declared in your word that all things are possible and all things made new. We ask that you would move in our broadcast today, that you would bless those who honor you and who live their lives in a way to please you and glorify your name. And I pray that you would edify us for the sacrifice of our praise and develop us wherever it is that we may be lacking. We love you, dear God. We thank you for loving us. We thank you for this organization, Frontiers International, and specifically the local chapter, Plainfield Area Club, and all of the efforts that you have allowed us to accomplish thus far. And I pray that you will continue to strengthen us as an organization so that of all of the volunteer hours that we commit and all of the effort that we perform, that we would see results in the lives of those that we touch. Because success is not measured, dear God, by the amount of money in our vats, but by the quality in the lives of those that we touch. These and all blessings we pray in the mighty and in the matchless name of Christ, our Savior and our King. Amen. So it is Black History Month. And not only are we going to talk about some historical elements of Black Americans and the contributions that we have made to the American society, but we're going to talk about how we continue to shape history every day, even now. So right now, I'm going to introduce to some and present to others our district director. Her name is Deetra Harvey, and she is with Frontiers International, 1st District Northeast. Deetra Harvey, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the broadcast. You are on mute, so please unmute your mic and we will proceed. We are so pleased that you are with us today.
It is my pleasure, Yoke Fellow, my pleasure to join you today, and congratulations on hosting your Black History event. I bring greetings to you, my Yoke Fellows, and to the guest of this broadcast from Mohawk Valley Frontiers, which is your sister club, from our district, 1st District, and from Frontiers International. Just wanted to say a quick hello and a greeting. I am excited about what you're going to hear today. It may be information that is familiar to you, but I encourage you to listen to with fresh ears. We are living in unprecedented times, and what we do is service. And above all, in today's world, service is something that we cannot forego. So I encourage you to listen with an open heart, listen with new ears, be energized to go out into your communities and to continue to do the great work that you have already been doing for so many years. Again, congratulations on your Black History event. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Certainly, Deetra, we appreciate you being with us today. We know that you could have been anywhere else and you do have other priorities that you must tend to. But certainly, the fact that you chose to be with us is not only welcomed, but reassuring to know that together we will accomplish much. So thanks so much for that. It's always a warm reception when we're together. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to bring to the broadcast none other than one of the most instrumental members that we've had for many years, and he goes by the name of John Brinkley. He will be presenting our speaker for this program, as well as providing some protocols that we need to follow. Welcome, John Brinkley. Young fellow Brinkley, thanks for joining.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be able to present to you a local hero. Before we get into the substance of today's lecture, as Sophia mentioned, this is the Westry Horn Cultural and Heritage Lecture Series. There's a listing, and Dr. Bethel will go into why we named the lecture series after Westry Horn. The series began about 5 years ago, and this year we have a number of great speakers and great topics that I'm sure you will enjoy. We're going to be using this platform so you can view and appreciate and interact in the comfort of your home. We'll be posting the series, the up and coming series, on this website that you're viewing on either YouTube or Facebook. But I wanted to highlight next month, on March the 20th, we are going to be going into Harriet Tubman Beyond the Movie with a local author and educator, Annette Alston. So please stay tuned for that. And for today's lecture, we will be having a question and answer period at the end of Dr. Bethel's presentation. And you can just post your comment or question in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, just post it and we'll be able to see it. And again, it is a great honor to introduce. We've had a number of other very prominent speakers come and present to the people of Plainfield. Everyone from Les Brown, the motivational speaker, Dr. Joy DeGrew Leary, historian and psychologist, Gil Noble, even Bill Cosby was here with a lot of fanfare, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, just to name a few. But today we are going to have a local person who is very prominent in his field. This is Dr. Bethel. He was educated at a historically Black college, Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. where he got his bachelor's. He received his master's of divinity at Johnson C. Smith. He received a master's, and this is also going to be posted. In fact, he has such an extensive background that I can't even begin to touch all aspects of it. So we'll be posting that, his broad background. But he received his doctor of philosophy of education here at Rutgers University in 1975, and his honorary doctor of humane letters from Lincoln University. He retired after 42 years as a professor from Rutgers, and he became a professor emeritus, which is a distinction bestowed by the Rutgers University President and Board of Governors. He helped to establish the Department of Africana Studies at Rutgers, and he was a key organizer. At Lincoln University, he was quite an athlete. I embarrassed Dr. Bethel before by going into his ball skills, his wrestling skills, and everything, all the letters and awards and everything he received. So I will not go into that, Dr. Bethel. He also has been a pastor at Washington United Presbyterian Church, here at Bethel Presbyterian Church, and assistant chaplain at Lincoln University. He has received any number of awards. He was inducted into the Oxford Round Table at Oxford University in England in 2003. And as I mentioned, because of his athletic prowess, he was inducted into the Lincoln University Athletic Hall of Fame. He also was a member of Who's Who among African Americans. And at Rutgers, he received the highest teaching award, the Warren I. Sussman Teaching Excellence. He's a Woodrow Wilson Fellow. He's Who's Who Personalities in America. Frontiers, our local club, awarded him the Community Leader and Service Award. He received the Paul Robeson Faculty Award and the Who's Who Among Community Leaders in America. He has, and there are numerous other awards that you can see posted. He has a number of publications. He has 7 books that he has published. He has 10 articles published in established journals, and a number of articles that he published as editor of the Plainfield Today. He's been a trustee and board member at Lincoln University, Union County College Board of Directors, and the school board here in Plainfield, and a number of other things. His family is also a high achieving family. His wife, Veronica, is a professor at Raritan Valley Community College. His son is a doctor, Emil, and his wife, Kelly, she's also a doctor. His daughter is an attorney, and her husband is also an attorney. And his 5 grandchildren all are in college at this point. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our speaker today, Dr. Leonard Bethel.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. And
here you can see some of his background. I tried to touch on some of it, but you can see his broad experience.
Okay, I'd like to thank you for your introduction, and my fellow yoke fellows and my family and friends who might be listening. I'd like to start by saying that our yoke fellow Michael Pine, at the end of my presentation, will show you pictures of some of the people that I will be talking about. He is a yoke fellow, and it's interesting. The word yoke fellow, coined by our founder Nimrod Allen, came from a concept from the field. The yoke is a bar that it connects bisons who work in the field, oxen, not bisons, oxen, who work in the field, who do hard work and are dedicated to work. And so therefore, he used that yoke that connects the oxen and called us yoke fellas. And the women who are in the auxiliaries are called yokettes. The Frontiers organization is divided into about 9 districts across the country, and maybe that has expanded. The mission of the Frontiers is, as was mentioned before, service. Because my training, not only my theological training, but when I earned my doctorate, I studied under an existentialist, and so I look at history in that way. And I look at the African American experience through some of the thinking of W.B. Du Bois, when he suggested that our experience is one of double consciousness. And so even though I'm in strong agreement with us being titled the first Black service organization, that has an area of specificity, and that is we're the oldest Black service organization for humanity. And in order to put that into context, we have to take the broader picture and using a kind of double consciousness focus. There are other service organizations who appeared on the scene before 1936, when the Frontiers International, it was first called Frontiers of America, was discovered by Nimrod Allen. And I'd like to give some attention to this idea because these organizations put emphasis on service to community. And we put emphasis on service to humanity. And so in that context, we are the oldest when we suggest service to humanity. But I like to give focus to the idea of how we arrive at this and give you some idea of those organizations who gave service to community, so that we can have a sense of service of humanity as it fits into that whole notion. Fred Johnson and I published the only historical book on the Frontiers, history of the Frontiers International. We had it published in 1991. Because of my university connection, I was able to get the work published by University Press of America. And Fred and I worked on, even though it's not a large book, we worked on the book for over 2 years, gathering information. And we discovered something about our African-American operations when it comes to gathering information and research. It took us almost 2 years to gather information on the Frontiers, even though the headquarters is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Most of the information on the various chapters around the country were in the basements and the offices and the homes of individual members. And we had to contact those members to get information. They had more information than information that was possibly stored in the main office in Philadelphia. And I found this to be true as we tried to make comparison with some of the other early organizations. Our Black Greeks, African American sororities and fraternities have the same pattern. Even though there are offices there, there's a sense in which a lot of information can be found in the desk and in the garages and the basements and homes of individual members. That is something that is still a challenge that we probably need to move forward to and correct. But this is very interesting in how we need to look at the service to community idea. And we can't escape the fact that there were organizations, even though their focus was not just service to community, they had other things that they did and other purposes that they functioned under, and which is different than the frontiers, because its primary purpose was advancement through service and service to humanity. But I think we need to give some recognition to these other organizations so that we can see how the frontiers model unfolded. For example, the oldest service to community organization began in 1787, the Free African Society in Philadelphia, by Absalom Jones and Richard Allen. They were concerned about the conditions of the Negro and to give service to the needs of the people who were either coming out of slavery and freedmen. And the Free African Society also kind of sponsored the Underground Railroad of those blacks who were escaping from slavery. Richard Allen carried on this process with informing the Bethel AME Church in Philadelphia. He is buried there now. If you go and visit the Bethel AME Church, you will see that his vault is in the basement area. And they carried on the efforts of the Free African Society and their Underground Railroad efforts and helping the needs of the community of blacks settling in the Philadelphia area. I'd like to give special focus to, now Absalom Jones, he was more or less involved in organizing the St. Thomas More Episcopal Church, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But I'd like to give you some idea of those historical churches in Plainfield, New Jersey, because it had a particular effect on how the Plainfield chapter of the Frontiers was organized. For example, the first African Presbyterian church in Philadelphia in 1807 by John Gloucester, who was a slave, was organized, and they were involved in the Underground Railroad in 1807. In 1870, as we move on to the Plainfield, New Jersey scene, the Mount Olive Baptist Church provided food and clothing for the poor, offered literacy classes and prayer to the sick and the shut-in. It's 1870. The Bethel Presbyterian Church in 1883 and 84, and I'm proud to say that I pastored there for 10 years, from 1982 to 1992. They helped the wounded soldiers in World War I. Reverend Imes was the pastor. In 1915, his wife was a nurse, and they helped some of the African American soldiers who returned and who needed physical help. They sponsored at Bethel Presbyterian Church over the years the Head Start program. They fed the poor and the hungry in town. All of this is in focus of service to community. The Mount Zion AME Church in 1893 was established, and they had a program for community children back then. The Calvary Baptist Church in 1897 in Plainfield, New Jersey, provided food for the community poor. The St. Mark's Episcopal Church, established in 1903 in Plainfield, New Jersey, fed the poor, had provided overnight facilities for the homeless, school material for children, and was a real ground-setting institution for a community service. Those organizations that were outside of the church offering community service before 1936 were very profound across the country and met the needs of the African community. In 1864, the American Teachers Association. 1864, the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite Masons. In 1895, the National Medical Association. In 1906, the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. In 1908, the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority. And in 1900, the National Negro Business League. In 1902, the Odd Fellows. In 1898, the Order of the Elks. In 1895, the National Medical Association. In 1907, the Eastern Star. And also in 1907, Jack and Jill. In 1909, the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. In 1910, the National Urban League. And also in 1910, the Imperial Court Daughters of Isis. In 1911, the Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity. In 1911, also the Mega Psi Phi Fraternity. In 1913, the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. Also in 1913, the Chi Delta Mu Fraternity. In 1914, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity. In 1920, the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority. In 1926, the ASALH, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, founded by Carter G. Woodson, who started Negro History Week that eventually became what we are worshiping and we're celebrating now, and African American History Month. In 1923, the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. In 1923 also, the Benevolent Protective Order of the Reindeer. In 1934, the National Council of Negro Women. In 1932, the Chi Eta Phi Sorority. Also in 1932, the Drifters Incorporated. In 1932 also, the Eta Phi Beta Sorority. In 1935, the National Council of Negro Women. These are some of the organizations that we can give credit to for service to community. But here comes a pioneer, Nimrod Allen. Fred and I had great joy in writing this work and putting together all the information. And we'd like to thank Father Logan, Thomas Logan, who brought material on the Philadelphia chapter and also on the international operation, and a couple of boxes. He brought it to Fred's house while we were writing. We'd also like to thank Dr. Emmett Dennis, who is vice president at Rutgers University, who also brought us information to tell us about the Frontiers International extension into the African scene. But Nimrod Allen, in 1936, met with 6 men at a lunch in Monroe Avenue Social Center, the Columbus Urban League in Columbus, Ohio, to discuss a service club. And the idea was, it wasn't because Nimrod Allen didn't recognize the activity and accomplishments of other organizations, because he himself was a member of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. But he wanted to give complete service to the African American community without any other commitments, no secret handshakes, no secret passing of words, but just service. And so he talked to these 6 gentlemen, and they got together and formed the Frontiers in America, which eventually became the Frontiers International. The Frontiers Club of Akron, Ohio was chartered in February 1939, and the Cincinnati Club also in 1939. Allen was born on October 12, 1886, in Girard, now Phoenix City, Alabama, second youngest of 12 children. Allen's father, the Reverend George Wesley, was a minister, an educator, and editor of the Southern Christian Recorder. He had a great impact on the life pattern of Nimrod Allen and the things that he was able to achieve. Allen graduated from Wilberforce University with a Bachelor of Arts degree. He had an honorary degree, an MA degree bestowed by Wilberforce in 1920. He earned a Bachelor of Sacred Theology from Yale University in 1915. He was also recipient of the honorary degree Doctor of Laws from Morris Brown College in 1953 and from Monrovia College at Monrovia, Liberia in 1955. His impact on the life of his community in Columbus, Ohio, and the significance and impact of what he was able to achieve has given the Frontiers International a great history. Allen's jobs were significant in his development and how he was able to see the organization get started. A traveling agent for the Southern Christian Recorder, executive secretary of the Spring Street branch of the YMCA, Columbus, Ohio. Allen's work in the Columbus Urban League, YMCA, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Masonic Elks, Knights of the Pythias, Businessmen's Clubs, president of the Ohio Conference of Social Workers Among the Negroes, the Big Walnut Country Club of Columbus, Columbus Industrial Mortgage Company, the Claret Service Company, and the Allen Enterprises took him on to great heights and great recognition both in America and abroad. He was a great leader and a founder of our organization, and certainly Fred and I had a great joy in writing about him. Fred felt in his own investigation, and now Fred Johnson, I must say, he was a member of my church at Bethel Presbyterian when I pastored, but I found out and that we became really good friends. He and I wrote 2 books together. We published this book on the history of the Frontiers International entitled Advancement Through Service. We also published together Plainfield's African American, from Northern Slavery to Church Freedom. Both of these books were published by University Press of America that I was able to make contact with. And Fred was a Second World War correspondent. He was a reporter for Negro Affairs, and very well written and very literate in his expressions. And we had great joy writing together. And he sort of felt that not only Nimrod Allen, he and I collaborated on it, but he had a little more insight on Nimrod Allen. But he also was very impressed with Harold Pilgrim, and he wrote that chapter about Pilgrim, who had a great impact on the organization and the structure of the Frontiers International. Harold Pilgrim served as the organization's executive secretary for 18 years, from 1959 to 1977. And he was born in the Caribbean. He made in Barbados, West Indies. He came to America and became a citizen. And his total adult life was impacted by the idea of service to the African American community, and he made a great contribution to the Frontiers International, and we need to give him historically great credit. The Frontiers International has developed over the years many chapters, and we need to, some of them might be still in existence. If I missed one, please show my apology, because the work of the Frontiers in giving service to humanity is very important. Chapters in Akron, Ohio, Annapolis, Maryland, Atlanta, Georgia, Indianapolis, Indiana, Tallahassee, Florida, Crystal Coast, North Carolina, Decatur, Georgia, Decatur, Illinois, Gary, Indiana, Lima, Ohio, Mercer County, Pennsylvania, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Mohawk Valley, New York, Nashville, Tennessee, Newark, New Jersey, Houston, Texas, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Plainfield, New Jersey, Prince George County, Maryland, Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, Ohio, suburban Essex County, New Jersey, Cincinnati, Ohio, Marion, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Chicago, Illinois, Rockford, Illinois, Salem, New Jersey, Dayton, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Baltimore, Maryland, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Nashville, Tennessee, Tallahassee, Florida, Frederick, Maryland, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Vauxhall, New Jersey, Miami, Florida, Bucks, Tri-County, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Cleveland, Ohio, Kansas City, Kansas, Opelousas, Louisiana, Delaware, Omaha, Nebraska, Washington, D.C., Trenton, New Jersey, Canton, Ohio, New Orleans, Louisiana, and Saginaw. The women graciously formed a women's auxiliary, and the Yokettes, and some are still very active, even though the once all male Yoke Fellows and Frontiers was all male, and now is co-ed. I know the Plainfield chapter is an example of that. But the Yokettes organized their chapters in Akron, Ohio, Annapolis, Maryland, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland, Briggs Tri-County, North Carolina, Bucks Tri-County, North Carolina, Canton, Ohio, Lima, Ohio, Mercer County, Pennsylvania, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Nashville, Tennessee, Newark, New Jersey, Omaha, Nebraska, Opelousas, Louisiana, Decatur, Illinois, Dover, Delaware, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Houston, Texas, Kansas City, Missouri, Lafayette, Louisiana, Little Rock, Arkansas, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Prince George's County, Maryland, Saginaw, Michigan, Shelbyville, Tennessee, Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, Ohio. Sorry for taking the time to read through those, but it's very important that we understand how significant this idea is of service to humanity and the places where these activities have taken place. And keep in mind that each of the chapters always focused on their local communities with various projects of service and meeting specific needs. And so this brings us to the Plainfield chapter and how it was able to coordinate its activity and be of service to the local community. And as an example of all the organizations that existed throughout the country. Organized on September 14th, 1961 by Wesley Horn and Fred Johnson. And I'm happy to say that both of these men were members of my church, the Bethel Presbyterian Church, and they got me involved in the Frontiers. And Wesley was so significant in impacting on the community. Of course, I was able to write a book about he and his wife, Dorothy, The Horns of Plainfield, a hermeneutical view of African American life, published by Lincoln University Press. They were able to organize this chapter in 1961. West Street became the first president of the Plainfield Club, and both of them were quite significant in seeing that the club grew and had impact on the Plainfield and surrounding community. The Plainfield Club started a breakfast when Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968. They were able to get a breakfast started in 1977. And it first met. The breakfast took place at the YMWCA in Plainfield, and then at the Crescent Avenue Church, followed by the Plainfield High School, where the auditorium and the cafeteria are used even today and to this time. The projects historically that the Plainfield chapter took on, of course, all of the chapters had a focus on, and Fred and I wrote a chapter about vitiligo as a disease that many African Americans suffered through and are suffering with, and the national effort in dealing with that. We have a whole chapter on that in our book. But the local Plainfield chapter was significant in their service to humanity by literacy, of helping the Plainfield school system and helping children to read and to write, bringing computers into the Plainfield school system. In the early years, the Plainfield chapter sponsored a Boy Scout troop, number 6, in 1961, published a local Frontiers Bulletin, helped create the Plainfield Human Relations Tutoring Service to needy students. Also, in the 1960s, supported the first Black public officials, Dr. James H. Reed and Dr. Richard Neblett. The Plainfield chapter, when it established the breakfast program, was able to, over the years, bring on some significant speakers that impacted the spirit of the town. Amira Baraka, activist and author. Dennis Richardson, TV host. Charles Broxson, author and African-American book collector. Gil Noble, TV host. Bill McCrary, TV host. Ross Baraka, Newark mayor and the son of Amira Baraka. Earl Caldwell, journalist. Lawrence Ham, chairman of the People's Organization for Progress. Bob Law, radio personality. Nayaba Arundel, a New York Amsterdam News editor. And also, when the Wesley Horn Frontiers International Wesley Horn Cultural and Heritage Series started, there were some very significant speakers who helped to uplift the spirit of the people in town and brought some really interesting information for progress. William Payne, Dr. Akhil Kalfani, Bob Law, Dr. Yene Cody, Dr. Willa Cofield, who sponsored a program with panelists Maxine Salim and Barbara Riley and Carolyn Logan, Bill Cosby, Richard Barber, Jeffrey Dunn, attorney Andrea McChristian, Leonard Jeffries, Bill Davis, Dr. Denise Dennis, Dr. Carly Buckham, Jess Marshall, and others. This is very significant because it brought to the community, and this kind of pattern was seen in chapters throughout the country as they dealt with their local communities with speakers and for their various programs that they had. And I am proud to say that we have had some great leadership in the Plainfield chapter with past presidents. Wesley Horn, 1960 to 62, James Avery, Benjamin Jubilee, Robert Minton, Sidney Williams, Frederick Johnson, Clyde Edmonds, Richard Sands, Dr. James Reed, James Sermons, Leonard Wilson, Alvin Johnson, Henry Thompson, Clyde Allen, Dr. Melwood Davis, Ferdinand Hammonds, John Brinkley, Kevin Catwell, Mark Fury, Dave Hopkins, Eric Williams, Leonard Bethel, Michael Pine, Lou Slade, Sophia Jenkins, and others who were also involved in the program's development. And one of the things that Fred and I were concerned about as we looked at the progress, and we wrote a chapter on this of the frontiers in establishing an outreach to the Caribbean and Africa. And in 1961, the British Guiana Frontiers Club was organized. Interest was shown in developing a chapter in Nassau, Bahamas, which never materialized. An attempt in Kenya in 1976 to form a Frontiers Club, it did not materialize. Dr. Emmett Dennis was very insightful in telling us about some possibilities in Liberia and Ghana and Nigeria on the west coast of Africa, which never really materialized. He himself became a yoke fella when he came to America, and he tried to get the idea going on the west coast of Africa. But he said that the idea of just service to humanity didn't really catch on, because the Rotary Club of America went in offering jobs. And that seemed to have a greater impression. So the challenge that is still with us, and Fred and I at a few of our national conferences made this point as we were writing the book, that we have to make the Frontiers National truly international. The challenge is still there to reach out to Africa and the Caribbean and to bring chapters into their countries with the idea of service to humanity. And we still have that challenge before us. And one of the things that is very insightful in this whole picture is that, and we made this point clear, what makes the Frontiers International truly the first Black organization? But we need to add on to that quote, service to organization to humanity, which is different than all the other organizations, even though they have impacted and are still impacting the African American communities throughout the country. But the Frontiers is the oldest organization to emphasize its total and sole purpose in service to humanity for the inner city and to Blacks who are in need. And we still have that challenge before us. And I'm dedicated still to the idea that the Frontiers International has a few challenges, that we gather all of our information and put them in common sources in our national chapter headquarters in Philadelphia, that we develop a serious program in international contact to the Caribbean and to Africa to make our organization truly international, and that we stabilize our focus on junior frontiers and the growth of the organization. And I'm so proud of the Plainfield chapter, which at one point I served as one of its presidents. And I'm so proud to have been in the history of the Frontiers International and being a yoke fellow. And I wish the chapter well. I wish the national organization well. And I wish the future of our organization to give greater needs to the African American community and give service. Service to humanity, advancement through service. Amen. Now, yoke fellow Michael Pine will show you some significant pictures of a few of the people that I talked about and some other significant pictures in the history of the Frontiers International.
Thank you, Dr. Bethel, for that wonderful message. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Pine, the past president and chair for the MLK program. I send greetings from Plainfield, New Jersey. Thanks for being with us today. What I'd like to do is to review some of the photos that are in Dr. Bethel's book, Advancement Through Service. And with that, I have other pictures of other events that we'll share with you. This book is available on Amazon, and it's one that gives you the history of the organization. In 1997, when I was president of Plainfield, Dr. Bethel and I flew to Chicago, where he received an award from our national organization for being the co-author of this book. So it's available. It's a good read. It gives you the history of what Frontiers is all about. That's a better picture. Thank you, Sophia. Okay, can we go to the PowerPoint slides? There we go. So here's a photo of Nimrod Allen. So Nimrod, as Dr. Bethel mentioned, the founder of Plainfield, of the Frontiers International. As we know, he was the executive director of the Urban League, and he was a master of creating organizations. And during his tenure, at the time he was looking to do service, folks of our color were not accepted into these other organizations. So what Nimrod did was he created Frontiers International, and out of that meeting and gathering with a few folks, it grew into what it is today. So Nimrod Allen is to be commended for what he started, and his legacy lives on through the organization spirit that he provided. I must add a note, and this is taken from Dr. Bethel's book. His middle name happens to be Booker. And there's a relationship there. His father was also a member of an organization that worked closely with Booker T. Washington. That's why he was named Booker. And so it's a lineage that we have to make sure that we're passing along any historical facts from our people. Okay, next slide. This photo, it's very hard to see, but this photo is a depiction of a convention. And again, these photos are all available in the book, but it was an Eastern Regional Conference in Philadelphia. And there you can see Nimrod in the back. He was of short stature. He was a small man, and he speaks about that in the book, as far as his coming up and so on and so forth, where he had to work extra hard because of his size, but his education made up for the difference. So here they are meeting. This is in 1954. So again, the organization founded in 1936. So you can imagine all the years of working to establish the organization and getting like-minded African Americans to be a part of it. Next slide, please. This photo is of the NAACP executive director, Benjamin Hooks, and he's there at one of our conventions. That's elderly Nimrod on the right side. And this was in 1954 as well. Now, this is a very interesting photo. This is one of our older photos, and it goes back to when the Philadelphia club was really a strong club. It still is. But in this photo, Langston Hughes is depicted in there. He's actually almost dead center with the hat in his hand. And so Langston was with the Philadelphia club. And to his immediate left is a gentleman, our our international chaplain at the time, who has Plainfield connections. That's Reverend Thomas Logan. And we'll see a photo of Thomas Logan next. This is Thomas Logan, and Thomas Logan was our international chaplain. Dr. Bethel and I had the opportunity to speak with him, and Dr. Bethel mentioned a lot of the information that we received, that Dr. Bethel and Fred Johnson received to build the book, came through Father Logan. Father Logan has family still in the Plainfield area. Next channel, next. This photo is of our international officers. In this case, it was Elmer Jackson, our corporate counsel, our legal counsel, and Floyd Alston, who was our international president at the time. The handwritten notes were just signatures that I received in my book. So sorry for the scripting, but I had to share with you photos of two distinct gentlemen that were instrumental in continuing the legacy of Frontiers International. Next, please. Here's a photo of the Newark Club. The Newark Club was one of the stronger clubs in the first district for many years. And here they're honoring Mayor Sharp James. And I won't read the depiction, but the Yoke Fellows in this photo were doing commendable work in the Newark area with the boys clubs and the various tutoring and mentoring. And the photo was taken there in Newark. Next, please. Okay, so now we come to Plainfield. As Dr. Bethel mentioned, we were founded in 1961. And so this is our 60th anniversary of service in the Plainfield area, founded by Yoke Fellow Westry Horn to your left, who is receiving an award there from Dale Lee, who was the national chairman at the time. And on the right side, you have Fred Johnson, who's also the co-author of the book, Advancement Through Service, receiving a certificate award from our chairman, Dale Lee. I won't read this all, but these are the past presidents of the club. I believe it's 29 over the last 60 years. And it's a list of good Yoke Fellows. I must add in here a little footnote. B.J. Brown Johnson became our first female president in 2005. And so we're not exclusively men. We do have women in our organization. It started that way, but it eventually changed. Next, please. Here's a photo of some other past presidents. To the left, you have Clyde Allen, who is receiving a service award from Eric Williams, one of our past presidents. So these photos are a collection of past presidents. To the right, you have Ferdinand Hammonds, who is currently residing in Alabama. And that's Dale Lee, Chairman Dale Lee, to the right. And then the bottom photo is Dave Hopkins and Eric Williams. Eric was on crutches, by the way. He had broke something. So if you notice something sticking out from under his arms, those are crutches. Next slide. Okay. And here's another photo of folks that were in attendance at this particular award gathering. And as you can see, you have Eric Williams, and you have, to the left is Dale Lee. To his left is Bill Phillips, a Plainfield club member, Eric Williams, and Andy Wirtz. He was the president of the Mohawk Valley, which is in the first district. To the right, the picture on the right is Eric giving Rick Taylor a Man of the Year award. And Rick eventually went on to become mayor of the city of Plainfield. This is a picture from the late 1990s, and this is the club. Westry was sitting second from your left, and this is a photo that we have with our membership. Next, please. 2004, as you can see, our numbers were growing, and this was a distinct picture because I believe it was around the time when we were also hosting Cosby. But this was a breakfast program, and these are our membership. Next, please. So Syracuse had a convention a few years ago, And this is a small photo of the first district members. And at the time, it was just the two clubs, the Plainfield and Mohawk Valley Club. Mohawk Valley is actually in the Utica Rome area of New York, upstate New York. And this was at the chairman's banquet at the convention. And we have yoke fellows from Plainfield and Philadelphia. The folks in the center portion are from Philadelphia, flanked with yoke fellows from Plainfield. Yoke fellow John Brinkley and myself included. This was a convention banner. And so I just want to spend a few minutes on this banner because there's a lot going on here. It was a national convention. Okay, it talks about our sister organizations. We're a collection of organizations, and so we have the Frontiers International Foundation, which is our fiduciary arm, and then we also have the coordinating council, which are managed by ladies, and we have the Junior Frontiers, which we'll touch on in a minute. Okay, so Plainfield Area Club Junior Frontier. So we recently kicked off a Junior Frontiers. Our numbers are small, but we're working on growing. I just want to give a quick shout out to the principal of Maxson Middle School at the time, Principal Kevin Stansberry. He had a youth forum where young people, these were mostly in grades 6 through 8, were invited on a Saturday to come hear different organizations speak, and I was invited to speak. And so here we are, and Stansberry is the person in the middle with his arm raised, and you have the young people taking it all in. Okay, next slide. Another view of the audience, as you can see, again, this is a Saturday morning. These youngsters could have been anywhere, but they were in here absorbing as much as they could about organizations and how to get involved, so on and so forth. Okay, next. This is a busy, it's three photos. So to the top left, this is, okay, so yoke fellow Lloyd Ballou, a Plainfield club member, he was our key Junior Frontiers advisor. And so Lloyd is actually sitting in a classroom giving the folks that came to us some instructions on setting goals, time management, skills that are well needed to be successful. And there's Lloyd again on the right side, meeting with another group of Junior Frontiers. And the bottom photo is of interest because he's actually breaking down hours in the day in how to manage your time better. Time management is something, if taught properly early, folks can really take advantage of it. Next slide, please. So out of that, we were able to recruit a few. It started small, but we also took them to a conference trip into the Mohawk Valley region, which is in Utica, New York. So the picture on the left shows you, our first stop, we were in New York, and it's saying, "I love New York." And to the right, we're now in Mohawk Valley at a spring conference. The gentleman on the right with the yellow T-shirt is the actual Junior Frontiers International chair. And the gentleman on the left was one of our Plainfield area members. So they're meeting for the first time. So it's good for them to really come together, collaborate, and find out what projects they're working on. The bottom photo, we were here, and the group, they were going over their schedules and making plans for their activities. Okay, so with all that, the picture on the left is showing we came back to Plainfield and we gave the Junior Frontiers an option of what service could they provide. And they decided that they wanted to work with our senior citizens. How about that? So on the left is a photo of yoke fellow Darrell Clark. He's the one pointing at the screen, and he's instructing the youngsters on how to do certain navigation through Microsoft Word and Excel, et cetera, with some seniors. And then the photo on the left is showing some of our Junior Frontiers working and pointing out certain things to our seniors. Now, obviously, with COVID, that we're no longer doing in-person activities, and we plan to resume with virtual activities. as soon as possible. But I just want to share with you some of the activities that the Junior Frontiers have started, and we're proud of them, and we're looking to grow it even more. Okay, so that's the slideshow. It's a short one, but I just wanted to highlight some things. Now, I know we're asking for contribution to the organization. Funds are always needed, and we put it to good use. And so I would like to mention, in Sophia, I'm not sure if you're able to pull up the scholarship recipient, but we do have a scholarship recipient we would like to acknowledge, and her name is Lena Taylor. Lena Taylor is one of our scholarship recipients, and we'd like to highlight her today, and we'll probably do more throughout the year. But Lena is a senior at Plainfield High School. She has a GPA of 3.97. She's a member of the National Honor Society and a member of the PHS swim team. In addition, she does voluntary work in our church and in various ministries. Ms. Taylor, in her essay, and most of our applicants have to write an essay on Dr. King. What does Dr. King mean to you? And I must read this. She mentions that Dr. King's legacy inspires her to become a teacher, to educate our children on where they come from and to help them navigate to where they want to be. Okay, so she plans to pursue that, and she's applied to various universities, Keene University and the College of New Jersey and William Patterson. So we wish Lena all the best and success. And as we have shared with our other recipients, you have access to a lot of folks to help you along the way. And I'm sure your parents are proud of you. Okay. And so that's my spiel. Thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully you have learned something today from Dr. Bethel on the history of Frontiers International. And if you have any additional questions, you're welcome to ask in the chat or contact any member. Thank you, Sophia. You're on mute.
Everyone, again, thank you so much for joining us for today's program. As you can see, the amount of work that stands before us is great, and it requires a concerted effort of collaboration, drive, and an unyielding desire to make a positive impact in the lives of those that you serve. And that is how we accomplish advancement through service. Again, as Yokefellow Pine and Yokefellow Brinkley have already elaborated, we want to, again, petition you to join us and partner with us in our efforts, donating to our scholarship fund, donating to all of our initiatives within the communities that we serve. And you can do so, again, by using Zelle at phone number 732-470-4207, or through PayPal at email address jess.marshall@verizon.net. And of course, as I'm speaking, you may already notice that it is just below in the banner that is scrolling across the screen. We recognize that as a people, we have much to overcome. We have much that we've already overcome, And we have much that, regardless of how many times and how much effort we've attempted to overcome and dismantle, there are systemic obstacles that stand in our way. And that is why we work together in concert to address these things and to, more importantly, prepare our young people to overcome what stands before them. So again, thank you for joining us today. We are Frontiers International Plainfield Area Club, standing for advancement through service. And we can only do that when we do it together, working toward a goal of excellence, not only in education, but in quality of life and in conduct. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. May God bless and keep you in all that you do, today and always. Many thanks. Everyone, as we prepare to conclude our broadcast for today, it gives me a great honor and privilege to introduce to you all Mr. Errol Powell. He is joining us as well from the First District. Mr. Powell, York Fellow. Errol, thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours, kind sir.
All right, thank you, President Jenkins. As indicated, I'm Errol Powell. I'm the chairman of Frontiers International, and I bring you greetings from the national organization, the officers, and the board. Dr. Bethel expounded on the publication, and I want to encourage each of you who can to get a copy of that publication. I want to encourage each president really to have a copy handy to read it and also discuss it in your club meetings. It can be a guide to you in what you need to do. 2020 was a challenging year for everyone in our clubs who put on projects, and you've heard about some of the projects that the Plainfield Area Club has been doing, but they had to revamp what they were doing, but they did not stop service to their community. So I want to commend the Plainfield Club and all our clubs across the nation, which did not stop but continued to give service to their community. Now, we have, as part of the Frontiers International, a strategic planning committee. And that strategic planning committee is in the process and has been in the process over about 2 years of making plans that will take Frontiers International into the future. When Ebony Magazine and Jack Magazine were publishing, Frontiers International was identified as one of the 100 most influential organizations in the entire nation. So when I saw some of the chat comments that some of the individuals had never heard of Frontiers International, then that gave me a pause. And we, as part of the Strategic Planning Committee, we have a communications subcommittee. And that communications subcommittee is in the process of doing something to accentuate Frontiers International so people will not be able to say, like I saw here this afternoon, oh, this is my first time hearing about Frontiers International. We want everyone across the nation to hear about the good things that our clubs are doing for their communities. And most of the clubs also have scholarships for students. So when there is asking for donations from the clubs, you know that those donations are going to those students for scholarships. So we want to encourage everyone to really give to those scholarship funds. Now, I also made note of some of the things that Dr. Bethel brought up for Frontiers International to address. And I want to assure you that our Strategic Planning Committee is looking into those areas that Dr. Bethel brought up. And part of it was because of what Dr. Bethel had written in the book. As I pointed out earlier, I have read it, and several of the officers have also read the publication. So we are using some of the things that he brought out. And so we are trying to move the organization forward. And the Plainfield Club mentioned the Junior Frontiers. The Junior Frontiers have been and are being a pipeline for membership in the Frontiers organization. So when the Junior Frontiers are active in the community, they bring service to the community. So when they become members of Frontiers International, they will continue with their service. So I want to congratulate the Plainfield Area Club on what it is doing and has been doing, and continue to do that. And thank you for having me this afternoon.
So Yokefellow Powell, we certainly want to thank you for joining us today. It certainly means a lot to us, recognizing that there's a number of other things that you could be attending to. And with the unprecedented times that we face, there are trials that often beset each of us, but your perseverance and your focus remains an inspiration for all of us. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, so without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you again for joining us. The Frontiers International Plainfield Area Club, along with the other locations that service communities in which they reside, we're always looking to broaden our reach and to increase those who partner and work with us to make a difference. If anyone is interested in learning more about the club, we invite you to follow us on Facebook at Plainfield Frontiers Club. You may also visit the national website, plainfieldfrontiersinternational.org. I'm sorry, frontiersinternational.org. And one of the things that you'll find is that though the history is there, and though we reach far back with all of the accomplishments that we have demonstrated some of which today, and many others which go unspoken. The work is plentiful, and as the Bible has it, laborers are few. And so to impact and improve the way that we operate and the impact we can have in our communities, we always welcome new members. So please do follow us or reach out if you have any questions. You can message us directly on Facebook, again, at Plainfield Frontiers Club, and we will get back to you within one business day. And even as I prepare to close, it's heartwarming and heartfelt to know from Ms. Jen Michael Grain that Dr. Bethel was a professor at Rutgers, inviting her to the program. So we are grateful that you joined. Thank you, of course, Dr. Bethel, for all of your tremendous work as you continue to demonstrate Black excellence for all those who come after us. Again, everyone, thank you. We bid you adieu. Have a wonderful day, and God keep you.